Well, hello and welcome all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land to the Texas Special YouTube channel. Now, if you watched that opening clip of this video, you're probably wondering what in the world was that? Well, for this episode of Mo's Hobby Shop, it's a little bit of a twist, a couple of twists. Number one, this is actually not going back to Mo's Hobby Shop. This is staying here at the house. I picked up this Budweiser Clydesdale Bachmann On30 Christmas set from Mr. Mo for the wife. So this is one instance where Mo's Hobby Shop actually kind of sort of for a little bit was a hobby shop where, you know, I bought something. The set as it sits right now is a Bachmann On30 260 with tender, a 40-foot-ish stock car, and this baggage car. Now, we're starting with the baggage car. We're going to work our way towards the locomotive. First thing that I notice is the paint and decals, which are very nicely done. You can see you have this very striking graphic of the Budweiser Clydesdales, and of course Budweiser Clydesdales on either end of the car. In keeping with the Christmas theme, you have the bows and garland along the top of the car. This door actually does open. Albeit it takes a little effort. Huh, maybe it doesn't open. No, it opens on the other side. Ah, it's taped on that side, on the inside, that's why. So, looking at it from this side, the door does open with minimal effort. Inside the car, you have a simulated wooden floor. No interior lighting. And I see why he taped it. There we go. You have these cool passenger type trucks and metal wheels, body mounted HO scale Bachmann couplers, magnetic operating knuckle couplers. You have a wood exterior, simulated wood exterior. On the underside of the car, you have this bracing here. This old-timey bracing right there on both sides of the car. You also have the underside of the floor, the frame detailing, the brake piston right here, an air reservoir. And you'll notice, you know, as I said earlier, this is an ON30. Now what that means is this is meant to model O gauge on 30-inch gauge track. So this is narrow gauge O scale. Now the reason why it's ON30 instead of ON36 or ON3 is because Bachmann figured out that if they do ON30 instead of a true 3-foot gauge, you can run these trains on HO scale track, which is a win for both the modeler and for Bachmann. Number one, it creates a new niche market, and number two, it allows people that have HO scale trains to buy these to run either for holidays or special occasions or just to satisfy an itch. And if they have HO scale trains already, they don't have to buy any additional track, all the better if it's Bachmann track. So these are good for 18-inch radius. Yes, for those of you that have been in the hobby for a while, that's not a shock because us O gaugers, we do diameter, not radius, and 18-inch radius is 036, 36-inch diameter track, which is what the vast majority of everything runs on in O scale now, except for your really high-end, large steam locomotives and diesels and freight cars. Now here we have the stock car, and this is probably the coolest car in the set. It's got the Budweiser graphic here with the little crown. It's got the Anheuser-Busch logo, St. Louis, Missouri. There's not a whole lot of lettering on this car, but the lettering that is there is done very nicely and very crisp and sharp. This little stirrup step here, I need to glue that back into place. You've got the full height ladder here. You have grab irons here and here corresponding with the location of the full height ladders. Now, this is actually a double door stock car. Now what I mean by double door stock car, you have the barred door here, and yes, the doors move. You can slide that over and close the solid door. So you have options there, which is really cool. It's not something I've ever seen on a stock car before. If we look at the, well, there is no designated B end of this car, so we'll just turn it around and look at here. And you've got the same thing here. You have a double door here as well. You have the barred door right there, and if you slide it over, you have the solid door closing. So that is really cool. You've got these separately applied grab irons, full height ladder grab irons. You have polling pockets. Again, the Bachmann Easy Mate knuckle coupler. You have some pilot and drawbar detail. If we look at the top of the car, you'll see a separately applied 4-plank brakeman's walkway, and you also have these freestanding separately applied grab irons in the corners corresponding with the full height ladders. On the underside of the car, you again have those little braces that the baggage car had. In addition, you have some freestanding underframe details. It's kind of hard to see because it's all white on white, but you got a brake piston here. You have the brake rigging here. You have these freestanding frame timbers, and of course the underside of the car floor, and free rolling metal wheels, the On30 trucks, and body mounted couplers. And while I'm thinking about it, I forgot to mention the ends of the passenger baggage car. Look at there. You got the Anheuser-Busch up here on the roof. You got the little Christmas wreaths, nice gold separately applied end hand railings. No safety chain though. There's no safety chain on either end. You have a handbrake wheel on either end of this car. You have some minimalistic pilot detailing, some wood plank detailing here along the top of the deck, a cast on door and frame, and you also have these separately applied grab irons right here on the body of the car by my thumb. Oh, and you have a separately applied smoke jack there for the coal or wood stove. Alright, now that I've rectified that, we'll scoot these along and we'll bring the locomotive back to us. We'll start off with the tender, because that's obviously what's going to come to us first. So, looking at the tender, this tender has a coal load. It is connected to the locomotive with a simple drawbar. The drawbar is attached to the locomotive, and there's 2 pinholes. And you just slide that solid little pin there in front of this truck that my thumb is touching into either hole, either the farther back hole or the closer hole. And it doesn't matter if you're running a, well, it really doesn't matter what radius you're running. It lines up, you know, it does good on 18-inch radius with either hole. Obviously, the closer you couple it to the locomotive, the better it'll look, the more realistic it'll look. You have these gold trucks, you have a body mounted knuckle coupler, metal wheels, you have a speaker hole, perforated speaker hole, so if you add DCC and sound to this, which I might, then you know you're golden, you're set to go. You have a air piston and some very minimalistic frame detailing. That's pretty much it going on the underside of this thing. As you saw there, the engine does not require the coupler to be, or excuse me, the tender to be coupled up to move. That will change if I add DCC to it. You have the Budweiser graphic here, nice, big, and clearly, you know, displayed. Very nicely done. You have this red, white, and blue right here. You have some gold trim and stars along the frame of the car. You have these cast-on stirrup steps right here. Separately applied grab irons. These little gold accents right here, I'm not quite sure what they are. You steam guys, if you know, feel free to chime in the comments below. You have some very nicely done gold pinstriping along the top of the bunker here. If we look at the front of the tender, you will see a simulated realistic drawbar, some timbers to keep the coal in place. There's not really a hole or gap for the fireman to reach in with his scoop and grab them. And you can also see a little better how far out those grab irons are standing off the sides of the body of the tender. I'm not really fond of how shiny this coal load is, but it's a Christmas themed train, so I'm not going to mess with it. Looking at the rear of the tender, you can see that we have the Bachmann Easy Mate magnetic knuckle coupler, a separately applied, movable, but obviously non-functioning uncoupling pin, grab irons on either side of the coupler. And looking at the top of this thing, you get a better shot of the coal load and this bucket. So we'll flip that around and couple that up to the rest of the train and bring the locomotive back under its own power. This is a DC model. There's no DCC on board. I don't know if it's DCC ready. You have this really nice gold drivers and pilot wheels, as well as the white trim on the tires of the wheels, all 8 wheels. A very striking red, gold, and silver paint scheme. This engine looks sharp, y'all. All of the freestanding pipe and details are done in gold, so all your hand railings, all your piping, braces and whatnot are all gold. You have the air pump right here. You have the turbo generator right here. You have this dome right here. You have the whistle done up in gold. You have the bell done up in gold with the red mounting bracket. Silver smoke jack with a legible builder's plate. Anheuser-Busch on the pistons. Anheuser-Busch, or cylinders rather. Anheuser-Busch right here on the cab. There isn't a number on this engine. This engine just has the Anheuser-Busch where the numbers should be, which is fine. You have this nice gold and red trim around the very top of the smokestack. It's just a sharp looking engine. The side rods have been chemically darkened, and the very minimalistic, very simplistic design. Looking at the front of the locomotive, you see a nice golden cow catcher. You have a separately applied, non-operational coupler cut lever and a non-operational dummy knuckle coupler, which if you milled that out, you could probably couple up to it a little bit. You see the headlight with number boards, but nothing on the number boards. The grab irons, hand railing wrapping around the front of the plate or base plate for the headlight. And you have some marker lights here that are attached to the headlight bracket, base plate, whatever you want to call it. Looking at the roof or the top side of this thing, you have Anheuser-Busch Eagles, the symbol all in all four corners of the cab, gold trim all the way around the perimeter. Excuse me. A ventilation hatch which does not open. And if we look at the fireman side of the locomotive, it is more of the same as the engineer's side, just minus the air pump, air compressor. The cab is closed off. This is basically your motor right in here, so there's not a whole lot of detail going on with the cab. As you can see, there is no detail going on with the cab. So we will get this all together and send it around for a trip on the Stars Hollow Railroad. I neglected to mention that the headlight is not directional. So in either direction, the headlight does come on.